Welcome to the Sacred Rebellion, the space where truth isn't filtered, sovereignty is sacred, and rebellion is a return to self. This isn't just a podcast, it's a remembering. We're here to break the trance of comfortability, reclaim our gifts, and rise as the embodied rebels we were born to be. Here we journey with the wild hearts, the way showers, and the visionaries who choose their truth over comfort, their mission over fear, and their souls over the system. This is where the coded ones come to speak, the ones who didn't fit in because they were never meant to, and the ones who turned their pain into power and their story into their medicine. So drop in, take a breath, and let's remember who we are, one sacred rebellion at a time. Welcome back to the Sacred Rebellion, the space where sovereignty leads, systems are questioned, and the cosmic truth always finds its way home. Today on the Sacred Rebellion, we welcome a truly multidimensional being, Flo, a planetary guardian, galactic musician, and visionary oracle. Flo weaves frequencies that awaken the soul and restore remembrance in the heart of humanity. As a Lyra and a Pleiadian aligned storyteller, he channels transmissions through sound, oracle, and sacred retreats, bridging the celestial with the earthly. Through galactic line music, wild dolphin retreats, and his mastery of oracle decks and multidimensional codes, Flo offers a path of divine reconnection, where spirit meets embodiment and the masculine remembers his sacred role in this global awakening. This is more than a conversation, it's a frequency. Let's dive into the rise of the awakening of the masculine, navigating the collapse of the false identities and anchoring in divine mission in a chaotic world. Welcome to the show, Flo.
I'm honored. Thank you so much. What a beautiful introduction. I'll
Thank
try to
you.
live up to that.
Well, let's jump into it. What does your awakening look like? I've never heard your story. I know you've said that a few times on podcasts, but what cracked you open to your galactic remembrance?
Yeah. Well, many doorways of awakening, but one in particular, still remember the first time I closed my eyes and meditated. And it was instant, like knowing. It was a deep knowing. I felt like an ancient Tibetan soul. I felt Tibet so deep, felt like a continuation of lifetimes. And I couldn't fully comprehend in that moment what was happening. But there's a instant awareness. And that's the beauty of the soul. We're all here on this earth journey, and sometimes we forget, but our soul remembers. And my soul was patiently waiting for me to get into my early teens. And okay, they're like, okay, now this young pup, he's learned his lessons, he's got away with his tomfoolery, troublemaking, and now it's time for him to embark on a new chapter. What guided me to meditation at that point was suffering. I remember I was going through a lot of anxiety, loneliness. When I look back on my life, it seems like those days where I was questioning led me to my path. So I feel sometimes it's when we're suffering, it's our soul bringing us back home. And from there, completely different life, where to begin, but now I'm here, and I feel very grateful to be in this planet right now and in service for what is to come.
Yeah, I can think back on my awakening, and definitely it came from a place of pain, right? Because we get to a point where we can't continue. It's like your soul puts you, I always think the over soul or the higher self is really just it's really your just shadow self teaching you all the lessons and the aspects of yourself that essentially bring you to pushing you through the uncomfortability. Like, uncomfortability means growth. And a lot of people don't understand that. It's like people have to become uncomfortable in order for them to look outside of what they're experiencing in their reality. So I love that also is your story, because that's not everybody's story, but that was my story as well, is dealing with a lot of that in the meditation, and connecting into my being was essentially how I experienced my awakening as well. So I love that that's something that not everybody gets that. And meditation is so powerful in connecting into your own energy field. And I feel like that's a huge crack through, right?
Absolutely. And I think if there's a message humankind could hear in this moment, is maybe the uncomfortability is a sacred gift, is a sacred guidance in your life right now. And perhaps it's not as bleak as your aspect of you might think in this moment. There's always
Right.
a doorway.
Yeah. Yeah. I always, I haven't told anybody on the show this, but that's actually how my business was born, through Sacred Rage. And getting to a point of such despair, my child had just been diagnosed. We had 2020, like COVID, and my child had been diagnosed with a medical condition that was going to alter his life completely. And I decided that how can I continue to like stop in a space and continue to play in a space of smallness and hide who I truly am because of comfortability. And so I think everybody comes to a point in their awakening that that growth pushes them into the next level of who they truly are, you know?
Absolutely. And that's beautiful. I'm grateful that situation led you to such deep medicine and where you are right now. And perhaps maybe that's like our whole planet. If we're all kind of in uncomfortability or rage or whatever that looks like to you, and we're kind of being led somewhere. That
Yeah.
brings me hope to hear your story, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know, you can take something in your life and take it as a victim, right? And I did have that space, but eventually you move forward with that. And that leads me to my next question. Like, as a masculine, identifying being, what were the biggest distortions or roles you had to shed to embody that truth? Because I think right now where we're at, a lot of masculine, there's not a lot of men that are essentially awake, right? There's just, you probably feel a little bit like a lone ranger, right? And so what would you say that was your biggest distortion or roles that you had to shed or release or heal?
Yes. So I have a lot of compassion for men in our time, even though the world tries to put everything on them as the reason for all the problems. And on some level, yes. And on some level, no. Right? And, you know, growing up as a man in our world, we're just so indoctrinated with programs. I'm a child of the 90s. I grew up in the 90s, and literally everything I engaged. We watched TV back then. I feel like an old man. When we watched TV, we had movies, shows, you name it, and they were all kind of boxing a man into a very limited definition. That definition seeped into high school, etc. And what I learned is, in those days, at least, men were very uncomfortable sharing. There was like a lid. It's like we had to put on a certain sort of presentation to hit a standard. And in all honesty, it was so inauthentic, that path. It's and even to this day, so many men are, even social media, there's people guiding people to like to hit a certain image. So I think the first major distortion is you have to have this image, right? And if you think about the word image, it's kind of like a mirage. It's fleeting. It's not really deep. It's not whole. So in order to us to discover ourselves, we really have to connect with our truth. And our truth is we are fleeting. We have emotions. We are not perfect. We go through suffering. And that image, which we had to be like perfect, really limited our healing as men, as a masculine. And this sort of dam of energy was built in us where we stopped accessing our soul in many ways because we were so fixated on this physical image. So it's really imperative that we are honest as brothers. We look at this life we've been brought up in and ask us a good question is, what is a man to me? And, to journal that perhaps. And when you journal it, the next question I would ask men is, where did these opinions and thoughts come from? And soon they will realize, we've been kind of indoctrinated. And when that awareness of indoctrination comes, it's such a beautiful moment because it really opens up the full perspective of what's possible. And once that sort of limitation was cleared, I began to, what I feel at least, tap into what a real man is.
Uh-huh.
And what a real man was heart-centered, was in service to women, community, not just about image, but service. And I feel like that's the definition of a man because we are meant to move. It's just in our DNA. We're meant to, we've been built with this temple to lift, to build, to create. And we could use that energy to heal our planet right now. Our planet needs trees, needs garbage picked up, needs women protected and safe sacred spaces. And that's just all I guide the men is what is behind your definition of a man to bring some consciousness. And from there, there's infinite possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that definition. I love the definition that a man is of service, because when you look at the masculine energy, it's the physical aspects, right? It's like people I always love hearing people. They're like, "Well, I'm going to just step back and be in my feminine." And as a business owner and being a woman, like you have to bounce back and forth. So my next question to you would be like, how do you balance that within your own being, stepping into the feminine aspects of your life and also stepping into the masculine aspects of your life? Because that's also very much shamed in our society is, how, taking rest, taking time for yourself, self-care, speaking out against what your needs are and your emotional aspects of yourself. How do you do that today?
I love this question. It's, I think this is like the
Gold nugget here.
nugget to all of us as human beings. And so the foundation is we all have a masculine and a feminine within us. And, I won't necessarily lay out something, but I'll share some of my experiences.
Sure.
I felt it was very important for me as a man to connect with my feminine side and to understand that part of my human nature, which was, okay, maybe I don't got to work as much. Maybe I need to listen more. Maybe I need to soften my energy. And what I feel men will take from exploring their feminine side is they become more whole. Like when we look at Mother Gaia, who's my guru, my teacher, she is soft and hard. She's cold and hot. She is dark and light. And for us to be, coming back to breaking down that image, we have to tap into our full paradigm. So I got great healing from tapping into my feminine. And I spent a lot of time with women when that feminine was coming out of me and I didn't judge it. And it was so powerful to connect with my feminine because it made me honor women more. It made me have deeper understanding and compassion. I've opened a lot of my past lives in this lifetime. And I just remember one day in meditation, I started to change into a woman and I saw myself giving birth. And I saw myself giving birth so many times. It was just like a never ending, kids were coming out of me. I was like, whoa, what is this? And after that experience, the first thought I had is women are the most strongest people on this planet. Like to carry a child for 9 months, that is ultimate respect. And to understand we come from that, all of us come from that sacred womb portal, really open myself to drop all this ego that's embedded in that image programming that, hey, we're men, we're in charge of everything. And it's like, no, we're working together hand in hand and everyone has a role in this universe. I don't like to say we're equals. I think we're very unique and we're pieces of the puzzle. And, that's also something society has manipulated. They've put so much energy on equality. And obviously from freedom and all that, yes, equality, but from like unique gifts, it's very different. So to understand that feminine really allowed me to live a more happier life as a human, to honor breaks, to have rest, but also to have the masculine energy women have too, which is when to take action, when to be decisive. And it's like accessing your whole treasure chest. As a human, it's like, why would you want to limit yourself to a piece or like a certain color spectrum when you could have the entire color spectrum of consciousness? So men and women, but I'll speak to men on this, really like drop your ego, drop the shadow ego. I mean, because it's going to better you as a human. And you could hold on to like this fake image, or you could be humble and access all of creation, and you're just going to be in deeper service to creation. And this is just important. I think it's important as men for us to spend time in nature. Too much technology these days, including myself. And the visions I always have of men, I've had these visions of a unified brotherhood. That is actually the message the prophecy I'm meant to carry in this lifetime is, whoever's listening, imagine if all men started to work with each other. Imagine if we all became a unified brotherhood, and our intention was to serve the planet. How beautiful would that vision be? And I'm starting to see it now. Like I'm in men's group. I just went to a men's group yesterday. Men were starting to follow the women because women were first gathering in circles. And
Mm-hmm.
now we're starting to come in circles. And I believe men are going to understand that we're more stronger together than separate. So it's an exciting time, and I have a lot of hope for the brotherhood right now.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I definitely think that brotherhood is super important in the awakening of the masculine so that there's essentially, I mean, not a lot of men have a place that they can communicate with from another male perspective. And just working with male clients, I think that it would have been super beneficial for them to be able to have a man's perspective on how to essentially create without feeling like they have to fix, right? That's a big wound in the masculine is the fixing in the frequency of the feminine. And, instead of fixing, supporting would be the dynamic, right? And so I think that if men came together in a circle and connected in an emotional aspect of themselves to be seen, heard, and validated and not come from that mother, because it's almost like just from my being a coach to men, it's often seen with they look at you like as a like a mother figure, someone who's going to like help in that mother aspects of yourself. And even if that's not the intention, right? Like I've just noticed that as someone who has coached men. And not that I have a problem with coaching men because I actually don't, but it's very fascinating to see that perspective with men. And I love that they're starting to come together. And I'm really hoping that more men can come from a place and come into a place of that sanctuary to be able to have brothers without judgment or shame or criticism, right? Just like women when they came into groups, no competition, no better than, right? And coming from a place where you can, say your frustrations, speak your emotions, cry if you want to, and experience and have someone that you can communicate with you that can energetically hold that space for the masculine energy.
That absolutely fully agreeing with you on that point. And something else that's, come to mind just to add to your last question is for men to do rites of passages. When you look at the indigenous cultures that I'm very connected with from a soul level and a human level, we as men, we had rites of passages where we had to push ourselves beyond our comfort zone in order to like tap into something deeper within us. And for the men out there or the women listening and they have sacred men in their lives, men need to be challenged. We can't get too comfortable. We can't just be looking at TV all day or looking at screen. We got to get out there into the woods. We got to go on some 4-day hikes. My rites of passage for me that I had when I was 26 was I went on a vision quest. I went to Vancouver Island in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a medicine person holding space, and I went out into the woods. 4 days, fasted in animal country. There were bears, elk, cougars, and I had to really trust and pray. So I'm praying and fasting for 4 days on the vision quest. When I came out of that experience, I felt like, whoa, I feel like a man for the first time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have this inbuilt into our culture. So for the fathers out there listening, this is so important for us to be out there in nature. Mother Earth will make us men. The feminine will make us men. But I highly encourage to push yourself or open up into some rites of passage like a vision quest or just doing something like a pilgrimage. We thrive in movement.
Yeah. Honestly, I think everybody thrives in movement. I don't think
Yes.
anyone thrives in being stagnant or sitting
Flow.
all day?
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry to interrupt, but it's like the
You're good.
water, it's like water that's stagnant becomes toxic. So we need to have movement and flow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I say yes to that because I 100% agree with that. And whether it's walking or it doesn't have to be anything excessive, like it can just be connecting, walking your dog every day or going out, depending on where you live, right? I know it's finally summer here. So we're, paddle boarders, play on the river type people. There's beautiful hiking where we live and very fortunate that we have that. I know not everybody has that. They live in a city where that's not necessarily always the case, but there's even a park, connecting in with that energy with the trees. My favorite thing to do is sit out in my yard and put my feet on the trunk, like just connecting with the tree or talking to the trees and connecting. It's always fascinating to channel trees. I don't know if you've ever done that, but that's always interesting to connect with the energetics of trees and how the root system all interconnects worldwide. So
Yes.
fascinating.
I'm a big lover of that. I love trees. There's some old growth trees around here where I live in Canada. Man, there are elders. Respect the elders. Like trees could live to thousands of years, so we could learn so much from our elders.
Yeah, one of my incarnations when I did a regression was I was a tree, and I just sat there and watched and observed, and it was something my soul incarnated and learned. And I think it's very fascinating. I still think people, just to watch and observe people is very interesting. So yeah, trees are very fascinating. I'm going to move on to my next question. What does it mean to you to be a planetary guardian, and how do you receive guidance from the Lyran and the Pleiadian councils?
Yeah, okay. That's such a deep question. Okay, so I'm just going to go into more soul realm now for this question. It all begins with knowing yourself. And when you get to know yourself, and we're obviously not just talking about superficial, who you are in this lifetime, we're talking about on a deep level. You start to realize, you've had incarnations, and as these incarnations open up, this sort of field of caretaking takes place. That, the earth is borrowed. That proverb. I don't know that proverb exactly, but your life is temporary here. And you're here simply to make it better for the next generations. So to me, that's a guardian and the true essence of the divine masculine. It's You're here to caretake and steward your land. You're here to be in communion with the trees, the elements, the species, the children. And because you are so open to this collective ecosystem, you realize you're part of that ecosystem and you have a role in it. So to be a guardian essentially is to listen to the planet, to listen to your soul, to listen to your heart. And when we're listening, we always become guardians because we're supposed to be caretakers to our future generations. So it's an ancient rule that has got lost in our time, got lost in constantly, chasing after material pursuits. And nothing wrong with material, but having it consume you and make up your identity, yes, definitely something with that. And it's returning back to the simplicity of our planet. So the Pleiadians have played a big role in working with indigenous cultures. If you very fascinated when you when you look at the creation stories of so many indigenous cultures around the world, different four corners, completely different places. They say they come from this constellation, the star system of the Pleiades. And the Pleiadians know who we are. They know the original human. The Lyrans know the original human. And because they have the star nations have multi-dimensional memory, for those people who haven't tapped into their multi-dimensional, of course, they remind us who we once were. Who we once were in Atlantis, who we once were in indigenous cultures, who we once were in Lemuria. And that was a planetary guardian. I mean, if you live in your home, like your home, you're living in right now, you respect your home. Take care of the floor, don't make it too messy. And this is our greater home. So the Star Nation has a big role in that, in reminding us who we are, in cutting through the amnesia and making us realize that we're not at the mercy of the storyline, because I have compassion for people who are losing hope. But deeply ingrained in me is just like that with that multi-dimensional memory is our planet has always shifted. Like we've gone through cycles. We've gone through long periods in Egypt. We've gone through crazy stories, but the only guarantee is change. So we really want you to be aware of the entire spectrum of time that Mother Earth provides, and to still your mind, still your nervous system, and pay attention to the Earth expands us into the quantum potential and makes us realize that we are writing the script. of Earth right now. The role of the planetary guardian, not just to caretake, but to use their creative juices, their imagination, their visions, their inspirations, podcasts like this, writing your book, sharing your music. We are co-creatively adding to the culture of our planet. And to me, this is what a planetary guardian is and their connection to the star nation. And it's very important
Mm-hmm.
that they're connected to the star nation. And I feel we are all being prepared
Yeah.
for us entering a universal paradigm. And we're the groundwork right now. You know, we're having these conversations for a reason. They're coming to your ears in the sacred now to prepare your consciousness for Star Family arriving. And with that, there's going to be great technological shifts. And I feel a spiritual shift will occur on planet Earth and it will awaken the planet.
So are you essentially, your star nation would be Lyran and Pleiadian?
I have many star nations, but I'm very connected to Sirius, the Pleiades, Lyra, and the Arcturians. Those are some of my major allies, and each star nation has such a unique gift. And I run courses online. I do a 7-week Starseed course. We've had over 600 people over the last years do this 7-week course. And, you know, just like in the shamanic realms, every animal has like a unique medicine. I feel every star family has a medicine. And the star systems of Sirius and Pleiades are very earth honoring. So they are like master caretakers. And actually a lot of people, my messages from Great Spirit and the universe are planet Earth is a replica in many ways of a planet in the Sirius star system. So this is why we have the dolphins and whales. This is why this is a water planet. We're not an Earth planet, we're a water planet. 70% water, right? So if you want to understand the universe, everything's replicating. Just go outside. You will see the answers right in front of you.
Yep.
And then the Pleiades are, as I mentioned, you know, they have such a deep connection to the indigenous cultures, the Mayan cultures, so many tribes in North America. But I've created the Pleiadian Oracle. And, you know, sitting with the Pleiadians, they always give me a certain message that as the bee is here to make honey, as the trees are here to create oxygen, as every species has a role. Our role as humans is to sing and pray. We have been sent here to sing and pray, which means to create. We're creators. And this is why a planet is really a planet. We're here to plan it. So they inspire me greatly, and I feel they're ultimate teachers for all of us.
Yeah. My first regression that I ever had, I was leaving on a ship and I didn't know it at the time. I thought it was Lyran for a lot of years. And I had full cognitive memory back in January of my Mintakan life. And yeah, it was very fascinating to leave a water planet, but it was a little bit like Earth. You know, there was land and there was a lot of water. And from my cognitive, I mean, I haven't read a whole lot of stuff about Mintaka. Just my own, like, I just turned left in the shower one day and it just all came through and it was so fascinating. Obviously, a lot of like emotional, you know, started instantly crying. There was like emotions and aspects of like, you know, remembering essentially watching you know, the planet that I loved at that time be destroyed. But it's always interesting. And then obviously like connecting with, you know, for years I thought it was Lyran just because of the way I look. I was told that by a lot of people. But recently I've really connected with the mantis beings, actually, is who I channel quite often as mantis beings. So,
Love them.
yeah, they're great. I work a lot in the body and the physical nervous system. But I use a lot of Arcturian connections with their technology to help people, like, you know, recalibrate chakra systems and different technologies to help upload different information into people. Arcturians are always so super fascinating. I think I've had quite a few lives as an Arcturian as well. So yeah, it's
I could
always
feel that.
very fascinating. Oh yeah, really?
I
What
could
else?
feel a lot of your Arcturian
Yeah.
was very strong
Mm-hmm.
in this conversation. I feel your Pleiades big time.
Hmm.
I mean, I feel your Earth story. I mean, the Akashic Records is just always accessible when someone wants to open. I feel Egypt in you a
Hmm.
lot. I mean, we could just keep going, but the essence is we're connecting to our soul, a library, and we're working with all the galactic races. And I think that is the path, you know? So it's we're meant to be multifaceted. The mantises are working with me a lot these days too. Very high dimensional beings. You need to have high frequency to work with them. So if they're attracting you, that says a lot about you as a being, right? Because they don't come easily,
No,
and
no.
they come to a few. Yet I consider them like 12th dimensional beings,
Yes, that's what I was.
and very geneticists, very working
Yep.
with DNA. I mean, they're like the artists of DNA.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when this is just coming down this moment when we
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
I've been doing an 8 week container with the Octurians lately, and the Octurians were talking to me about the DNA being manipulated. And when it was manipulated, it's like it changed the programming, the consciousness of a human, and from a human being to a human doer.
Hmm.
And it's like the mind just started going, I gotta do something, gotta do something, gotta do something. It's like because we became like robots in a sense, like we
Yeah.
gotta work, we gotta work. And like look at the world today. Everyone's like, hey, I gotta do something, I gotta do something. And I'm not perfect, obviously. We all have
Yeah.
elements of that.
Yeah.
But we're returning back, and it's interesting, it's our feminine nature, which is recalibrating our DNA back to the 12th strand to, okay, you don't have to always do something. Because it's like be, and you know, when we track the Akashic records of, at least to my awareness, when the DNA was manipulated, I feel it was during the Atlantean times.
Yeah.
And the Atlantis was a feminine society.
Yes.
And something happened, and then we became more logical,
Hmm.
masculine. Nothing
Hmm.
wrong with the masculine, but it was a shadow masculine. And from there, we've been on this roller coaster ride since. The destiny of our earth is to return back to our divine feminine nature, but also our divine masculine. And this is the cycle we're in right now. It's time for harmony between the feminine and the masculine. And I'm excited because when the feminine and masculine come together, we create the Holy Trinity. And from there, everything's birthed from masculine and feminine. So
Yeah.
it's the secret to becoming a creator, to have your masculine online and your feminine online. Because then you enter to your Holy Trinity self and or your Holy Spirit. And from there you can co-create with the ecosystems. The ecosystems are calling for your thoughts, prayers, imaginations. The ecosystems are so sensitive. When we walk through a forest, the entire ecosystem can feel your auric field, can feel your thoughts, can feel your akasha. Now imagine when that's coming online, we can begin to co-create with the ecosystems. And this is what we did in ancient Atlantis and Lemuria. So it's exciting times. I mean, I'm a realist, but I'm also like time. The only guarantee is change. And you know, people are like, "Hey, how are you like so positive, right?" And then it comes back to, you know, coming back full circle, you know, when we were trying to diagnose what is a man, it's like, how did you get these thoughts of what is a man? And the people who are having like doubt, it's like, where did you get these thoughts? And most of the time, people have allowed the news media, social media to take over their perception.
Hmm.
And your perception is a holy doorway to creating the now. So we need the perception can create heaven or hell in your awareness. And everyone's like so fixated on outside of them that they don't realize they just have to start cleaning their window. It's like, hey, I'm seeing a dirty world because my window is dirty. Let's clear the window. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, obviously. We're being real here, but we need your perception to be so clear and so connected to your soul. And I feel when our perception is linked to our soul, our third eye starts to radiate the new earth. It's like we become like a holy projecting screen and we start to create the new reality. This is a liquid universe and we are divine creators. May you never forget.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a switch that happens when you go from your awakening, which is a discovery mind, right? Where you're discovering, past lives, patterns, belief systems. And when you talked about how the mantis beings work in the DNA, like that's what I'm currently downloading is a complete DNA recalibration. And what they showed me was essentially a virus that came in and scrambled the DNA system. And when it scrambled it, it actually changed the sequencing. So like one of the most common ones people know would be like the MTHFR gene, right? People can have misspelling. So instead of having MTHFR, it can be spelled however it's spelled. Well, what happens when that's misspelled is it causes the system to essentially not do what it's supposed to be. So when I look at systems, I think of it kind of like a computer system, right? Like our DNA is like a computer system, and each DNA strand is an app, and that app holds codes of frequency. And each frequency plays a role. And essentially, when they all come together, they create a harmonious frequency, right? Whatever that looks like. And you can look at this like this mirrors in music, this mirrors. I always tell people if you want a mirror that's so beautiful and creates you from a different perception, look at something in nature. If you want to understand if something is essentially right for you, look to see what that would be created in nature. And that can give you some direction without having a perception to interfere with that reality for you. So when I look at when I looked at coding systems, this was my whole awakening is like I didn't think like everybody else. I didn't have that typical like spiritual awakening where I followed really easily because I was raised in a religion. So the last thing I wanted to do was follow another narrative, right? So for me, it was always like, yeah, I'm not following this because I'm just not type of person ever in my entire life. Obviously, why I call this the sacred rebellion of someone who follows a narrative. So I went through the systems and I didn't take classes. I just figured out things within myself. It was the discovery of self, right? So when I started channeling these mantis beings, they started to show me the sequencing and how it had essentially been scrambled. Now, some people would call this, I know I've had another podcaster on here say malware, viruses, things like that. And for me, the symbolic would be like a computer system. And so when you go through and you can actually restructure the DNA system back into the aligned sequencing that it was supposed to, or science would call that junk DNA, and light it up with a frequency, whether it's light language, whether it's weaving light codes into it, whether it's encapsulating the frequency or shifting the belief system so that it's something within you. The point of it is that as we start to awaken, we're going to start seeing new modalities and techniques and technology that we are going to start to remember from Atlantean, Lemurian, and even like Tartarian days. I don't know if you've ever gone down that rabbit hole, but that's a fascinating one. And moving through the energies of remembrance. And I love how you touched on that, many of us have to experience kind of those remembrances of our star nation because that's your soul family. That's the oversoul, right? It's the star nation that connects you into those oversoul aspects of yourself to be able to bring in the aligned, if you're a practitioner, you're essentially helping awakening your oversoul. Your energy is helping awakening, particular frequencies of something you have to give to the world. So I found that really interesting in my own discovery when I started to really unravel how I do work. It's not like how other people do work. And I love how you actually have used frequency music, right? And you use that to use transmissions and you use sound to do healing. Do you want to talk a little bit about how that is brought into your life?
Yeah, well, first off, great words. Just echoing that definitely deserves honor.
Thank you.
You could print it out. It would be like the independence of, I mean, Declaration of Independence. Put that all those words up on a plaque.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm true rebellious person right here. I'm like, I'm not gonna go with what the spiritual community says because I've already been in a cult. I don't need to be in another one.
good, good. I mean, and we're kindred spirits because, that's how I learned too. I was guided not just to learn from self-knowledge, right? And everyone has their own path. I respect everyone's
Yeah.
path, but that
Yeah,
was my
100%.
path, and it made me get my own clarity, which was good. And then later on, I would hear in the book, someone would mention a book, and I'm like, oh, okay, I've received something like that. So it kind of gave me confidence. So like, okay,
I'm not
but to
crazy.
answer your question on sound, sound is everything. I mean, we are sound. Sound is the field. Sound is vibration. I mean, when we go deeper beyond this physical reality, there's frequency, there's vibration. And what is the way to penetrate into this subtle existence? It's music. So I've always been a musician at heart. I mean, since I came on this earth, I've been music in my soul. I was making music like 2 years old, 3 years old, just never songs never ending.
Yeah, I love that.
So I'm kind of working more with not like sacred everything's sacred sound, but I'm making modern day music right now. I'm actually making house. I'm making electronic. I'm making disco, hip hop, etc. with conscious lyrics. And so that's what I'm working on right now. My artist name's Galactic Lion, and it's just so powerful to work with music. There's a reason music can shift cultures. There's a reason music can silence your thoughts and make you feel deep, joyous medicine. It's a powerful tool, and it's been used inappropriately from a collective, from some forces, and it's time for us to harness back our tools as creators and use music. So I'm just there's not no deep scientific equation behind it for me. It's just I'm following my passion. I'm
Yeah.
following my joy. Brings me happiness, and I'm hoping it could make people happy or whatever, bring out emotions when people listen to it. And a lot of sacred artists I work with behind the veil. Like I frequently feel Michael Jackson and Prince and Bob Marley. I feel like I have this whole crew of divine masculine and Tesla, Einstein, and they come to me and like they have not a karma, but they know that the masculine needs to heal.
Hmm.
So they're guiding us. And the essence of the masculine is creativity, It's not war, it's creativity. So that's the sacred brotherhood of light that we've heard about in these ascended master groups. And we're bringing it back, and we're going to create a culture of enlightenment through music and art and joy. I mean, I create board games. I have a board game called Masters of Light that works with the ascended masters. And I just like to have fun, I think life is precious. So I like to create and have fun, and I'm hoping that comes through in the music I create.
I love how you brought forward joy because I think that's probably one of the most pivotal moments for me in the last 6 months was, does this bring me joy? Does this bring me something that not happiness, joy? And I think it's really pivotal to understand that when you create from a place of joy, it brings this, at least this is my perception, it brings this really powerful serene that is undescribable. It's very calming to the nervous system. It's very, it's in everything. It's like, if I bake cookies for my kids, I'm like, does spending time with my children, it brings me joy. So I'm hyper focused on, that's why I created a podcast. It's creative energy. It brings me joy. I love hearing other people's story. I love communicating with conscious people that can have an in-depth conversation that is an array of subjects, an array of topics. And so I love that you brought joy because I think that listeners really need to understand that there's a point in your healing where it's like, healing doesn't have to be this drawn out night of a dark soul, depths of hell, this whole energy. It can also be a place of like, this energy brings me joy. It's healing because it brings me that enlightenment frequency of joy. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, uh, I think there's a trap in the New Age movement for
Yeah.
endless healing. Endless healing. It's like
Endless.
the Matrix has taken over spirituality, and I've observed people like such good souls are so enthralled in healing. I mean, there's a time and place for everything, but everything out of balance
Hmm.
becomes like a poison in our world. They become so inner world, it actually like they start to hit the selfish spectrum.
Yeah.
And selfishness, there's nothing spiritual about selfishness. If you understand self-care, but not selfishness. And the spiritual path, especially as we shift into the new dimension, it's not supposed to be so traumatizing. It's supposed to be more lighthearted. It's supposed to be more loose. It's supposed to be integrated with life. And the way that the integration occurs is through joy. It's like finding what brings you joy, like yourself. And I'm a firm believer in it's not about what you give, it's the energy behind what you give that has the biggest impact, right? Like somebody, they could give like $1 billion to charity, but it could be their ego behind it.
Right.
And then someone could give a 10 cents or $1 with that could be all they have, and they give out so much unconditional love. And I truly believe, that is more powerful. So our energy behind the scenes is so powerful. And this is like so many full circles coming here into this conversation.
Yeah.
Is if you believe you can make a difference, you may be disconnected from the energy universe, because the energy universe shows how a simple contribution can impact the whole. And it's time we start coming back to these authentic choices, and following joy is great service to the planet. You deciding in this moment, hey, I need to follow my joy, is sending ripples to the collective consciousness to break us free from slavery, obligation. So I think following joy is huge, and embodiment is huge on this path. It's like who we become is the world we enter. So I thank you for following joy, and it's very important for me. I mean, I have to follow joy. I've actually kind of been forced in this lifetime to follow joy, because
Yeah.
every time I got a job that I didn't like or something, I always got sick. Consistently every time. Like I had no choice in this lifetime but to follow joy. And I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I think it's really important that people acknowledge that, like joy, if you are someone who's in service of humanity and assistance, if it doesn't bring you joy and it's work, you still are a slave to the matrix. You're still part of the system. And yeah, I think it's really important that people come from a place of joy. It's not necessarily even happiness, because I feel like happiness is like this temporary space. Joy for me is like an endless frequency. It's this, when I see it in my mind, because I see light codes, when I see joy as a frequency of a light code, it's a circle and it moves and it spirals downward, and sometimes it spirals upwards. But the fact of it is, it never stops moving.
So
Yeah. That's how I see it in a light code perspective. Well, let's kind of switch gears here for a second and tell us about your wild dolphin retreats, and how did they come to be, and what's the deeper frequency behind them?
speak about following joy is I mean, dolphins are pure joy.
Yeah.
So I spend a lot of time in Mexico, and I've always known my whole life, I've talked about I have a deep connection to Sirius, and I've always known I'm here to work with the oceans, dolphins, and whales. So I befriended some marine biologists in Puerto Vallarta, and we take people out to swim with wild dolphins, which is a very transformative experience. We talk a lot about extraterrestrials in our starseed communities, and nothing beats being with a dolphin. They just have, especially outdoor in the wild, they just have such a high frequency, and they're so ego free, and they change your consciousness swimming with them. So I've been taking groups of people. We're going to probably be doing one later this year. You could stay posted on that on my website, starseed.codes. And the entire intention is just to become planetary guardians. In order for us to be planetary guardians, we have to be in communion with the species on our planet. And the channeler Bashar said something a while ago that when, I guess, the galactic councils, they have a protocol that when you enter Earth or enter any planet, you always have to get permission from the most evolved beings. And these councils, they don't come to humans. They come to the whales.
Interesting.
So they're wiser beings than us on this planet. But it takes humility to find that wisdom. Humility will take us into the good humility, because there's an ego humility too, where you suppress your gifts. We're not talking about that humility, talking about humility. Turn down some arrogance so you can listen. And swimming with the dolphins and hearing the whales, because they come to that part of the world, it recalibrates your DNA. It rewires you. And the people who have been on these experiences, it's incredible. Like they shift so much. Like so many people have like dedicated their life to the earth just from one retreat, like complete shift. So these animals are calling us, and I'm just a guide to bring people to the ocean. They take time to adjust you, but we go on the water for 4 days, and by the fourth day they know you. And so in the first retreat, they were inviting us into their pods
Wow.
after the fourth day, and we were swimming with the kids.
Wow.
It was incredible. I've had such amazing experiences on these retreats. It was, like the last scene of the first Avatar, where all those animals come to fight the quote unquote people who are bulldozing and destroying Pandora. That's what it was like on the last day. It was out of a movie where like a pod of dolphins was jumping out of water and a whole pack of whales was following the dolphins. And it's like the dolphins brought the whales to us. And the whales are just breaching all around us. And I was playing the crystal bowl, and just so much marine life gravitated to us. And now their spirits are so with myself everywhere I go. I could always feel my dolphin brothers and sisters. They're so advanced, they're telepathic, and they want to work with us. Just like they did with us in Atlantis and Lemuria. They don't forget who we are. And this is why the animals, like the star beings, they have such a multi-dimensional memory, quantum memory. They haven't forgot who we are. And this is why they forgive us, because they know who we truly are. And they know our creation powers. So coming back to the ocean and dolphins, this returns our memory and makes us want to serve more.
Yeah. So beautifully said. It sounds magical. I mean, that sounds amazing to me. I would love to swim with dolphins, and we're big river people, so we love water, and my kids do swim team, so we're in the water a lot, but we don't have dolphins in Idaho, obviously. So last question, and we'll finish up here. For the sacred roles listening, especially the men waking up, what would you say to the ones who feel called but don't yet feel ready?
I would say go easy on yourself. Times and sunrises in divine order. And if you're not feeling ready there's no pressure on you right now. Just enjoy your life, enjoy yourself, invite that feminine softness, forgiveness. And there will come a time where a lightning bolt will come and you'll be called to your sacred mission and everything will make sense. But there's nothing to force. Allow the cocoon to transform you into a butterfly or open the seed. We're in nature's time, and you are nature, and your time is coming.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love how it's not rushed. There's no expectations. There's no fixing. It's just what is. So I love that.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And thank you for walking this path with us, Sacred Rebel. If this episode stirred something in you, an awakening, a remembrance, a fire, trust that is not by accident. You are here for a reason. You're part of a rising wave of truth tellers, grid shifters, and system breakers, reclaiming their divine design. If you loved today's conversation, share it with another rebel who's ready to rise, and leave a review and hit that subscribe button. And stay plugged into this frequency, because the revolution isn't coming. It's already here. Until next time, keep choosing your soul over the system, one sacred rebellion at a time.